This is the War Room Roundtable podcast, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and relevant businessmen and women on the planet. Hear their stories and get the most important business lessons they've learned on the road to success, and get exclusive advice on how to implement their successes into your life and business. The War Room Roundtable is brought to you by your hosts, Jason Miller, CEO of Strategic Advisor Board, and Phillip Lanos, CEO of Own the Rhythm, and former podcast host for Entrepreneur and Inc. magazine. Welcome to the War Room. Aileda, how are you?
Thank you. I'm great. How are you, Phillip?
Doing good, feeling good. Jason and I have just been chatting with you and checking the tone, and it's just constantly surprising. I don't know how I'm still not like expecting this, but like it's surprising that everyone that we've been speaking to lately has just been really solid as people centered. There's a sort of energy with them that you can only get after having a moment to yourself where you finally kept it real and decided to move somewhere in life. And that's kind of the tone that I want to get this conversation going in. And with my favorite question to kick things off, Aileda, do you come from a family of entrepreneurs?
I do. So, yes, I do. My father was an entrepreneur. So growing up, I was a baby in a family of 5, and I was the little girl born in. The rest of the kids were born much earlier than me. So I was like the baby. I watched my father have multiple businesses throughout the years. He started out in sales. I remember, and this is from the time, that I was just little, like I was probably, I have some of these memories from like probably 3 years old and up, watching him be an entrepreneur, which was pretty fascinating. He had his own, then construction company, did custom build homes. Then he moved into steel buildings and steel building manufacturing when that first hit the market. And that pretty much catapulted him from there. So yeah, I grew up in it as the baby girl, kind of like looking up, right, from down here, and really just idolizing my father and everything he was able to accomplish. And, it was just cool, right? Cool.
Yeah.
So for me, it was, I never thought I would grow up to be an entrepreneur, though, necessarily, which is also fascinating, but it was kind of in my blood, so to speak, I would say.
Yeah. Okay. So at some point, even though it wasn't intentional, you did step into the world of entrepreneurship. Do you think you can attribute any single moment or maybe a handful of moments that you felt really shaped that decision? Or was it something like you just said, I'm going to do it and just happen to have a knack for it?
No, I would say it was definitely a conscious choice and decision. I was at a place and time in my life where I had a tremendous amount of career background in corporate America, working my way up through the ranks in various different aspects or industries, if you will. It wasn't until I went to work for a group of private entrepreneurs who were also investors that I had probably some of the most profound experience in my life. Most pivotal, if you will, most groundbreaking from an entrepreneurial aspect of things, watching how they were able to wield and facilitate business, giving the assets and the things that they had and offering cash deals and like all of that, right? But the pivotal decision was I was also a single mom of 2 girls, and they were to ages where they had to be carded. I had to have a schedule that I could adapt to everybody else's needs and make sure that everybody was taken care of and got to their events and sports and whatever. And that really was the foundational grounding for me making that decision. And it was
Freedom.
a leap. Yeah, freedom of schedule. It was kind of mandatory for me, right? So it was almost like not an option. But by the same token, I had also methodically built my initial startup, my initial launch in business over a 4-year period of time. So it was a lot of planning, a lot of strategy, a lot of just slow growing, if you will, and a lot of patience with the process.
Okay, I've got my next question lined up, but I want to give the floor to Jason because he might have something to say about that as a parent and things of that nature.
Sure.
Well, what I love about almost, I would say 90+% of entrepreneurs, business owners, whatever bucket you want to be in, is, you just went for it, right? And just
Yeah,
did
eventually you
it,
get
right?
to a point where you leap.
Right. You just leap. And what I always like to say is I'm a massive risk taker. I take lots of risks. Sometimes they come with rewards, sometimes they don't. But like I always say, I just leap and start building wings on the way down. But it's awesome that you've been able to create this lifestyle for yourself, because that's what business really is supposed to do. It's supposed to support your lifestyle, not the other way around, right? That's
Yeah.
just a job.
Mhm. Yeah.
Then so good on you for creating that for yourself. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, there is related to the fact that you laid the groundwork 4 years, like methodically, like this is what I'm going to do to make sure that when I do leap, all the pieces will fall to give me the highest rate of success I can get in return for my leap, right?
Absolutely.
And there's this idea I came across, I want to say 2 days ago, of the time horizon. For whatever it's worth, I think I got it from Jeff Bezos. But I'm not an entire fan, but I'm not entirely against him either. But the idea of the time horizon was something that he introduced to me, of the difference between someone who sets goals for 1 year versus 4 years versus 10 years makes a difference in terms of what kind of company you're keeping, right? Because many people will set the 1 year goal, the 3 year goal. So the fact that you had that 4 year goal in mind and that was how you approached it to begin with, it's one of the first times we hear someone methodically bring that out. Like, this is intentional what I did. So I imagine that this kind of intentional work goes into the work that you actually do, is what I'm getting at. So when you did finally start it, from what I gather, you do consulting. Is this accurate?
Yeah, I do executive coaching and business consulting.
Yeah. And so, so you make this launch. How does it go at first? I imagine even with all the work you did, there were still like, what? Obstacles left and right. But how did you really get your feet centered on the ground that you wanted to stand on?
Okay, so a couple of different things. When I launched and I was like, okay, I'm ready, Geronimo, probably within, I want to say 3 to 6 months after that, we went into a recession as a country. It was like 2007, 2008. And I had a bunch of small, independent, entrepreneurial type businesses that were a part of my portfolio right upon launching. And that was my saving grace. And because of my diversified background, I was able to bring in a tremendous amount of pivot for them, because now they're all of a sudden in the middle of a recession as well, right? So no better time to have a coach or a consultant on your side than that defining moment. And I was under contract. So, I mean, this was all already, laid out for them. And it really was, for lack of a better term, almost like a Hail Mary, if you will, for them as well as myself. And it panned out well for all of us. So, I have nothing but extreme gratitude, but was it scary? Are you kidding me right now? Yeah, hugely, right? Hugely. But those are the defining moments where you've already made the commitment. And this is where I would say it's about a commitment, right? So you can't be still in that stage of, oh, I don't know, should I or shouldn't I? Or, oh my gosh, I should have just stayed where you can't have that, right? You have to just shove all doubt and fear to the side, and you just have to move, right? And build and get busy. And when you do that, interestingly enough, all the pieces and parts start to continue to unfold and come together and or gravitate towards you. And you're able to then identify and see the reasons why this moment was the right moment for you, right?
I like that. Yeah. There's a degree of it's a direct consequence of the level of commitment that you put into something. If you're truly committed and you're not looking back or looking for excuses to maybe sidestep it or what have you,
Or where's my
then
safety net?
yeah, the pieces in front of you are the pieces you have. Make something out of it, and that's what you were doing.
Yes, absolutely.
Resolution, resolve. That's the word I'm looking for. Straight
Yeah.
resolve. So
Yeah.
then you do both corporate and entrepreneurial, right? Which is interesting because you did have that stretch of career where you were methodically developing yourself and your skills and what you were doing and your reputation. And then you went into the world of entrepreneurship. You saw the example they were leading by and said, yeah, that's what I need, especially for my family now. So you have this blend. Is there anything, because I feel like you're uniquely qualified for this, is there anything that people tend to miss that might be beneficial that you can bring into the world of entrepreneurship from corporate life, and then vice versa, people who might be in corporate life and wondering, is there any way I can be entrepreneurial in corporate life? I feel like you have enough of experience in both realms to be able to say there might be some interesting things there.
Yes. So I would say the biggest miss, if somebody is in corporate and they think they're going to go entrepreneurial, is now all of a sudden realizing that they have to cash flow their own team. Right. And so an entrepreneur, they go from like, whoa, I had an entire team at my disposal to now I wear many hats. And so that can be quite taxing, challenging, right? For that person who maybe held that executive position, had all this background experience, and then thought, oh, this like being an entrepreneur is going to be a piece of cake, because it's not just a piece of cake, right? Unless you already have that entire like financial sounding board and you're prepared and you're already prepared to pay a team, right? So that's one thing. That's one of the biggest misses I see from the top side, corporate America. Oh, I'm going to jet out and I'm going to be an entrepreneur. They have no earthly idea, literally, that now they're the ones doing all the action steps. And vice versa, I would say the person who has done really well as an entrepreneur now going to go into corporate America, the biggest change and step and transition for them is that if you're going to go into an executive position, now you have a team that you guide and that you delegate, and you're not the person who's doing the tasking and wearing all the hats. And so it's a transition in that aspect as well. Those are usually the biggest switches in a person's perception and in their mind, and the tasks, the duties, if you will, that I see misses in, right? Like they weren't expecting those things, if you will.
Yeah. So, and thank you for that. Thank you.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
you get this off the ground. You're here now. Do you have any goals that you're specifically now pursuing, given that you've cleared that marker that most people are trying to achieve, which is like some semblance of cash flow, and they have the ability to choose whether they want to grow or focus on profit, right? So you're there now. Do you have goals that you're pursuing beyond that?
The answer is yes. Like it's all about saving humanity now. Now it's all about saving humanity. That's my focus. That is my full intention and focus. And what are the ways in which I do that? And how do I help others build that? And how do I help them get to that place and state of being? Yeah, as hard and as fast as we can. Run and build it and they will come. That's my motto. And we have a lot of systems in this country, if not all, that need to be redesigned and or pivoted, changed, overhauled in some capacity in order to become the leaders of the world again. And we have everything in the making. Like we are, I tell people all the time, one of my biggest eurekas recently has been like, we are the people of the world. America, we harbor the majority of all the people from around the world in one great nation. I don't know of another nation who has that. And so we have a lot of challenges with being able to bring back that united factor into the equation, because we do harbor all these cultures. But there's going to be a common golden thread amongst all of it, we need to unite, we need to focus, we need to get our A game back on, for lack of a better term, and we need to build the best systems like we've once had that everybody replicated after, and we absolutely can and will and should do it again.
Yeah. Okay. So it sounds like you've taken on a global mission beyond just your business. You're now seeing it as a vehicle for being able to transform. And this is through helping other businesses achieve that, or quite literally you're stepping into politics?
I've never considered myself a political person. Let's just say that I'm writing a book on these topics, and go big or go home is my motto, because what's wrong with saving humanity? I don't know of a single solitary thing that's wrong with that. So that's how I view it.
Yeah. I mean, the bigger the goal, right? Well, who was it? There was some guy named Dov Brofman. He was like an Australian. And he said, if your dream doesn't scare you even a little, you've got the wrong dream in mind. And I find that the older I get, and I don't know if this is true of either of you, Jason or Aileda, like, it's hard to tell between what's making me anxious and what's making me scared a little. You know what I mean? How are you two dealing with that?
Well, I will say that it's a good thing to have a little fear. A little bit of fear drives people, right? Not bad. I'm not talking about bad fear, like the good kind of fear that gets you up every day and keeps you moving, and you got a goal, and it's like the fear is, my God, can I actually do that? Right? Did I bite off more than I could chew? Did I do this? That's what drives you every single day, right? And that's what keeps me up at night, every night, just wondering, can I really do that? Because I prefer to dream like a child, right?
As we should. Yes.
As we should. We should dream like children. We need to get back to that instead of, old stuff, right? It's like, let's get back to the core of things. And, children, they see things and they get scared, right? We should still
get elated and excited, too,
or
right?
they just get really excited, right?
They're just like, they don't even know to be afraid of some things.
Yeah,
Jason, that's the beauty and the bliss of children, is that they'll stick their hand in a fire for the first time, not knowing, right?
That's true.
So the fear that I think you're talking about, being in a good capacity, is that it is motivation to move, do something different, change your life or change your business or change something in some capacity or some way. It can be a prod for that. Yeah, I can tell you guys, I raised two beautiful young women who are both entrepreneurs now as well. And one of the greatest pieces of advice that I gave them, and both successful entrepreneurs, I will also say that, is to follow their passions. And they never would wake up a day in their life and feel as though I have to go to work. And I've been blessed enough to do that and represent that for them every step of the way. And they now do the same thing. And believe me when I tell you, I get thanked on the reg now. Like, motherhood is very gratifying at this stage, because they've grown and they now express, right, all of those things. Like, wow, like, this has been amazing. And, we're so blessed that you had that knowledge, or you were able to share that, because they live the life of doing what they love.
I love where this is going, because one of the questions we like to ask is, what leave behind would you have for someone who's young, or maybe someone who's just on the fence about going into business? And the idea of like, make sure you focus on your passion, or choose your passion, and you'll never work a day in your life again. It always needs a little context, right? It needs a little context. And I know that because you had this feedback loop between you and your children, they were able to relate that until it finally made sense exactly what you wanted to say to them when you said that. I was wondering if you could break that down a little, because of the unique perspective you have on that, on the fact that you have said that to your own kids, which is one of my own goals, to be honest with you. I don't want to have kids until I can look them in the eyes and say that very thing with confidence. I'm being as transparent as I can about, like, that's a goal of mine, to be able to be in a position to say that. So you did do that. So I'd love to hear how you would present that, if you could recreate that scenario.
Yeah. So it was super interesting with both of them in the aspect of, I can tell you they're both doing the very things that they grew passions for when they were literally like 5 years old. So it's pretty hard for people to go back and to remember, like, what was it that I truly loved in my heart and in my soul at like that age range, for like 5 to 10, right? Think about that time frame, and what were you just like over and over and over again, almost like obsessed with, right? So I'm going to give you an example. My oldest daughter, for her, it was horses and it was dogs. And she wound up getting married. They had beautiful acreage. They wound up, she had it with corporate America. She was in a very well-to-do position. She was right underneath the VP within an organization. They had leadership change for probably the third time. And she was just like, I'm not doing it anymore. And she quit and she started her own large breed doggy daycare and training business and has been happy as a clam since. She has a pack of 20 dogs a day. She's like, literally, we talk and we laugh all the time. And the beauty of it is like, it's like ecstatic, right? It's like ecstatic. So genuine joy and laughter, because she literally is standing, training, throwing a ball and living and loving her life with large breed puppies all day long. My youngest was a different situation in the aspect of, she was diagnosed with ADHD when she was 10. And I said, I'm not medicating her. And it was super, they said, well, she can't focus. And I said, well, I've watched her and she can focus on anything that she's truly passionate about, just like anyone. So I'm a little perplexed by that. But what we did for her was we found a charter school where she was then allowed to do a curriculum based off of the subjects that she wanted to write about or whatever. She had to fulfill the curriculum in every single class, but she got to choose the subject matter. That was the flip of the switch. She wound up graduating school 2 years early. She started her photography business, which was the passion she had from the time she was 5. We were also, remember we talked about like when you go down the path and you like, then synchronicities start happening. There's little dots that start connecting and things start hooking up, and whatever's meant to be, like it all kind of flows into the equation. So she was selling her photos and, kind of like Girl Scouts, right? She got into Girl Scouts. So then she said, Mom, I want to, sell my photos. I said, sure. I'm not going to kill an entrepreneur 7-year-old spirit. Right. And so we go to an neighbor's house and he winds up buying the whole box. And then he comes down and he's like, I feel a little weird about that. Like, I don't want you to think that, anything odd by me buying all of her photos, but I want to encourage her because she has amazing composition at this age. I'm blown away. She's a natural talent. And then he explained he was a photographer for National Geographic. And then he started giving her, his hand-me-down cameras. And so we started her photography business when she was 15, and she's still going strong with it at 26.
That's incredible. And I couldn't have asked for better examples, and they're so divergent from each other for that question. I mean, that's going to go down as one of the best examples, I think, in response to the question of leave behinds, because it's a personal story, right? 2 different examples. And they qualify as like people who really just focused on that path, and they were able to naturally commit to it because they loved it. There was no need to sort of force them to commit. And I guess the lesson here is, if you got to force it, it's probably shit.
I mean, you're probably not going to be happy, right? That's the thing. And joy, there's a certain aspect of joy to what we do that creates success. That helps create and cultivate our success because people feel it. Right? It radiates off of you, and people want to be around and doing business with people who are truly genuinely happy and who are truly, calm and loving their life and not in that place of angst or fear or things of that nature. And Phillip, I'm a mindset coach, so I don't really dabble in that. Like, I don't really get down in that. I'm always lifting my clients up out of that space and into solid ground and giving them all the reasons why we should not be in that state of being, because, it's not conducive to optimum space of thinking, optimum use of our brain and our mind. And we're not functioning at full capacity for all of the endless possibilities. Again, like you're talking to a person who's like quantum physics, epigenetics, neuroscience, right? Those are like my loves, my passions, right? So those are the places that I'm always taking people and educating them about, and then giving them protocols to follow. And it's always, I mean, with huge success.
I love it.
I'm super
It
happy
makes
to
sense
say
to me.
that.
Yeah, no, and I can feel it. I mean, I felt it from the beginning. There was a centeredness. I made mention of that as we kick things off. I feel like it makes sense to start moving towards the grand finale question. But before I do that, I want to leave the floor open to Jason if he's got anything to say. I'm sure he does.
I know.
Yeah, of course I do. I always do have something to say. I think it's a wonderful story with your daughters and how they really paid attention and they followed your lead going through that, watching you, seeing the things you do. Children pay attention, whether we think they do or not. They pay very, very close attention, right? Mm-hmm. And because there's been times where, you're really busy or whatever, it's a Saturday and you weren't expecting to work or something, right? Yeah. And that client is just going through a shit sandwich that day, and it's like they need to call you, and you're like, I really don't want to take this call, but you're at the park, you know how important it is. And then there's the work-life balance, right? Starts happening. So you take the call.
Yeah.
Nobody says anything. But next Saturday, your 4-year-old will tell you, Daddy, can you please not be on the phone working while we're at the park this weekend? Right? Mm-hmm. They'll let you know because they pay attention. So, oftentimes they see so much through our life that our life shapes them.
1000%. Monkey see, monkey do is how
Absolutely.
they learn. I can attest, like, they are monkey see, monkey do. And they will also like happily replicate back to you or tell you, like, here's where you made error in the path along the way. Yeah. And I'm just like, okay, thanks for that. Whoops, sorry. Like, there's no manual, like,
Yeah. What's funny is, like, my son corrects me all. He's very like sciencey and loves watching science shows and History Channel and all this stuff, right? So he's very grounded in more educational programs and not cartoons and mindless crap.
Yeah.
And sometimes I know he's testing me because he'll ask me a question and I'll answer what I think it is, right? I ain't sure. But then he'll go, actually, Dad, that's incorrect. I was watching the History Channel and they said it was this. And I'm like, mm-hmm. Fill your boots, boy. It's hilarious.
This is awesome. Yeah. This is awesome. I love it.
Phillip. Don't be afraid. Don't wait until you're ready. Like, take the leap.
Oh man,
the leap. Parenthood's amazing.
You're not.
I will say that
either, brother.
I'm 33. You're right. You're right about that. I actually starting to see plenty of gray. I don't know when that happened. Yeah, double. Yeah. No, I will say by and large that entrepreneurs who are successful happen to be also the happiest parents. It's almost like it goes without saying, and it's weird. I don't know why that is. I'm not saying that someone who has a job can't be happy, but you're definitely happier as an individual when you have a family and you also run your own operation. There's just something that I've seen across the board, 1,000+ conversations. Never once has that not been the thing. In fact, some of them have gone so far to say the way I make sure I set the example is I show my kids that our relationship, the relation between myself and their mother, is also a priority that is distinctly available to be known apart from us being parents to the kids. And I'm like, really? Like they go out of their way to make that clear. Like, this is a date night that has nothing to do with you kids, but we love you, like something along those lines. And apparently to much success. It's like shows a healthy sort of environment. And again, I'm not a parent, so all I can do is observe and say, okay, I'll take that note with me and make sure that I
Yeah.
keep it in my handy dandy notebook for the future. Although I'm sure the reality is not as simple.
I
You've been
think
watching,
that's
you've been watching Blue's Clues.
you saw the gesture I did there. Yeah, I'm one of 18. Okay, so I raised a lot of brothers and sisters. That's the other thing. Long story
Wow.
there.
No
Yeah,
way. Amazing.
long story there. Yeah, I've raised plenty of kids,
Wow.
including myself. But with that said, I wanted to get back to the grand finale, and before I go there, I want to offer people the chance to know how you, Aileda, prefer to be connected to, connected with. Is it through social, your website? What's your preferred method?
I would say probably the website, because it gives people automatically the opportunity to sign up and have some free time with me. A 30-minute, right? So I think that that's important. I think it's important for people to get to know each other and be able to get a sense of whether or not they're going to be able to work well together. I also like to help people as much as I can within that time frame. So I also tell them, like, come with your questions already ready. So in that first 30 minutes I spend with you, I can try to help you as much as I possibly can and answer as many things for you as I can that you have questions about. And that could be also pertaining to your own business, or where you're maybe feeling challenged at where you're at in this place and time. And if you come prepared, you can come out of it with a lot of information just from one meeting, you know? So
Invaluable.
social media, I do have. I mean, they can connect in any way they want. I also get messages behind the scenes from a lot of people across my social media platforms. I do respond to those. I do answer. It's always amazing when you get those messages that literally just make you feel like $1,000,000, and you're like, this is why I do this. Right? Because you've touched somebody in some way, and they actually reached out to you and let you know that you did that, and that it made a huge difference in their life in some capacity. And it could be something as simplistic as a post, but it triggered them, or caught them in a place of conscious awareness, and their perception honed in on it. And they were like, that's me. That's me today. Or like, yes, that's exactly what I needed. That's what I needed to hear. And it gives people a hope, right? Or inspiration or motivation or something along the way. Then yeah, those are the days where I'm just like, yes, this is why I am here. This is why I do what I do. This is it. These are the defining moments. And, those aren't even paid clients. And those are the most those are the ones that it's like, what? I just got that message. I just touched somebody who I didn't even know that I was touching. And so you never know what a ripple effect something's going to create. It could be something super small. It could be one person, but there's a ripple that will be created. I promise you. I know that from the years that I've had my social media, which hasn't been a lot. And my social media isn't completely blown out of the water, but I have enough of it and enough engagement on it that I know how it impacts and how we impact each of us throughout a day's time. And we don't even realize it often.
Yeah, no, I love that. And so just to be clear, askaileda.com is the website.
Yeah, it's askaileda.com.
Okay. And all the social links are there, everything they need. But as you made it so clear, you stand to have an opportunity to actually speak with her and learn about your own situation through someone's eyes who is clearly to much success, built a business, helped shape the lives of their kids into successes as well. I mean, if you've listened to this, you know how valuable it would be to even have that amount of time to sit there and speak with her. So jump on that now. Don't waste any time thinking about anything else.
There are probably a very small handful of people in the world that were able to, if you can influence teenagers to go down a path, not that you push them, that they watched you do it.
Yeah.
That they watched you do that and
Yeah.
decided to take that same path. That is freaking amazing.
Thank
And
you.
that's very amazing. And that lends a lot to the work that you do and how important the work you are doing and how impactful it is. Because teenagers are the hardest ever to be impactful to. I don't care what teenager it is. They're going through all these things in life and
They are,
so on and so forth. And you were able to lead them through that into following your path. There's a lot to be said about that.
Thank you. That's very,
Yeah.
both of you, hugely gracious and kind, you guys. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Thanks for letting me tell a little bit of my story. And thanks for letting me get to know both of you a little bit better.
Yeah, no,
Awesome.
it really has
now
been.
you can roll out the grand finale question.
I love it. I love it. At any point in time, like I said, it's a conversation we're having, and it really has been a good one. I mean, it just makes my day being able to have these kinds of, like, I get to do this, that's
Yeah.
that's a lot. It says a lot. It shapes the way I view the world. And I don't take any conversation I have anywhere I go for granted, because you just never know what's happening, With that said, the final grand finale is, if you could have invited anybody today to this show, your pick of the litter at any point in time, dead or alive, who would you have loved to have had here, either as a contributor or just a listener, and why?
It's not a small answer. I would say, give me the trillionaires and the gajillionaires, right? The investors, and let's get busy changing things. That's what I would say.
You're right. Having a conversation with them.
Yeah.
Like, go directly to the people that can actually do something. Yeah.
A real conversation. Like, get ready, like, sit down, my investors. Let's dig, right? Let's get ready to dig. Yep.
You know what? I was talking to my friends last night, actually, and they brought me on to a show I had helped start years ago, and they had like a series finale, and they brought me on, and we had this conversation, and they were saying, how come billionaires are always getting bailed out and with our tax dollars, but student loans and this and that. And I said, well, the only thing I can say that I know to some degree is true is, in the world of business, if you can make the case for how that capital will be doubled, tripled, or returned to some degree, something along those lines, and you can make a case for the value prop, right? Usually money flows. And by and large, for whatever reason, most of society has the opposite mentality, which I think would make you even a far more valuable employee, which is, they don't look at what value they're bringing. They just say, like, I'm here, right? You hired me, so, pay me my salary, and that's the value. I'm here, hold up, everybody. I'm here. I showed up.
Yeah.
When every entrepreneur knows, like, you had to earn that shit. You had to build yourself into what you are. And so that's sort of the dichotomy. I was trying to get them to understand that. And I hope it went through, but I can't be too sure. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, I think that's, I think that's all valid. I think that's great advice from my perspective that you passed on to them. Yeah. Like, everybody has to, it doesn't just, I'm not going to say it doesn't just magically occur, right? It takes a vision, and it takes holding that vision, and it takes the commitment, which we talked about earlier, and it takes dedication, and it takes grit, and it takes all of those things. It takes wisdom. It takes intellect. It takes being able to fall down, get back up again, dust yourself off, face the challenges, and continue to push forward. It's a sport. It is a sport, right? It's like, you guys are called the war room for a reason.
Business
it's not
is
like
war.
I mean, it is a bit of a gladiator situation sometimes in the field, right? Not gonna lie. And so, yeah, you have to have the fortitude within you to rise to the occasion.
Love it.
100%. And, when you look at people come into this idea that business ownership, entrepreneurship, there's this Hollywood effect and all this kind of stuff, right? There is no unicorn at the end. It's tough. It's hard. My vice president in the strategic advisor board said one day in an interview, she goes, small business is hard. And it's hard because If you don't have a team, it's all you, right? So there's nothing sexy about it. And can it be? Maybe, but we all know behind that curtain, it's a disaster most of the time. To a degree.
Yeah. So yeah, it's initially, right?
Yeah,
Especially
right.
within those first 5 years, right? Like
Mhm.
you're like, again, you're going to dig. There's like, you have to have a lot of grit. The difference is, I always, and here comes the mindset coach in me, Jason, jumping onto the playing field. I tell a lot of the people that I work with, I hear people use the word stress often, or that it's hard, or this is really whatever, right? Hard, stressful, whatever. Those are the top two probably that you get repetitively. And I tell people, just quickly transpose those words for the word challenge for me. Just quickly switch and just start saying the word challenge instead for me, and tell me how that feels. And tell me how much more you're ready to get your game face on and to go out onto the field and to kick some serious ass versus feeling defeated with the word choices that you might be using, right? And making something operationally sound, and your team and your culture. Those are the things that, even though they might be slow growing and you might wear many hats in the beginning, those are the things that as you do grow are going to keep you from being in a state of shit show versus accomplishing and creating and cultivating success. Is that structure that you're going to probably slow growing, maybe initially at first, unless you, again, have enough investment capital, did a business plan, got some of that investment capital, Phillip, that you were talking about initially in the beginning, right? It always flows. You said it flows, and it continues to flow for those people who can prove that value and the fact that this is how things are going to flow, and that this is what you're going to get back. And this is the reasons why it's great to invest in me. But most small entrepreneurs who are just starting are not seeking capital right out of the chute. Oftentimes just because they don't know to, or know how to stock themselves in order to get that capital. So I'm just speaking to the majority who probably don't have that. It doesn't mean that you can't build that or build into that. You can, and you will, as long as, again, you're committed and you're determined and you're really good at those things. And if you're not, then hire the right people who are. Even if it's a subcontractor, oftentimes people don't think, oh, like I'm creating a team. Well, if you're hiring a subcontractor, that is just as much and now a counterpart of your team, or a person who's on your team, as somebody who's an employee when you're a small independent, right? And so be mindful about your team. Who are you working with?
This is why people need to go to askaileda.com, and that's ASKAILEDA.com. Do it. Stop. Yeah.
Get in here. Let's have a
conversation. Seriously though, it's been a real pleasure getting to chat with you. I love that we went on this whole other, it was almost a second podcast beginning. Usually we don't get to catch those, but we did this time. And so thank you for indulging that. Those are my thoughts. Before we close out, Jason has his own.
Yeah. So I always like to say thank you for taking the time. We have 168 hours in a week. Thanks for stopping by for 40 and spending them with us. We're all busy. There's a lot of things going on in our lives. Busy is a horrible word. I actually hate that word. But
we're all cultivating.
We should all be being productive, not busy.
Yes.
But anyway, we can replace cars, money, all these things, but you can't stop the clock. So thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to take a little time to drop some mic moments on us and on our audience.
Thank you so much, you guys. Thank you. I appreciate you both.
Cheers.
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 Thanks for listening to the War Room Roundtable with your hosts, Jason Miller and Phillip Lanos. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and always remember, if you can dream it and believe it, then you can go achieve it. We'll see you in the next episode.